Hi, everyone. I'm Jillian Sidoti, and this is the Last Life Ever podcast. And you are.
Yeah, sorry, I moved you there. I am Jeffrey Holst, and I am super excited for our guest today. We have an amazing guest, Dr. Jim White, who is internationally recognized as a business turnaround expert. He's done some amazing things with that, and we might talk to him about that. But what we really want to talk to him about is how to find your life's purpose. And he wrote an amazing book on that, and he's the author of a whole bunch of other books. So we'll let him talk about all that stuff right after this.
Help me, my brother, can you lend me a hand as I walk through this land of confusion? If we give to each other, then there's nothing to take. Let's live life for the moment before it slips away.
Hey there,
Hey
Dr.
there.
White. Thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure. I love that intro, guys.
Oh, thank you. It's my
Go back and
husband's
do
song.
it again. That's fantastic.
Oh, I'm so glad. My
Love
husband's
it.
and he's gonna be so mad because he sent me like a new updated version, like
Yeah.
that's better produced a couple of times, and he gets so angry when somebody says it's good because he goes, "The recording's even better." But thank you so much. I will let him know.
Oh, it's great. I've done similar things over the years with What's My Purpose. So on the website, whoever's doing it might look at that. I get
Oh,
similar. Love it.
that's
Music,
awesome.
movies, motivation, people, life.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have a lot of, we're kind of jealous of how accomplished you are in this field because you're doing all the stuff that Jillian and I talk about all the time, both on the air and off. All we do is talk about how people can figure out how to get to their purpose, to understand what their purpose is, and then how to pursue your purpose. So it's kind of like two different things, like find it and then pursue it.
Yeah.
And if you do those two things, then you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. And and as you said, Jeff, it is two different things. Identifying, find, do it, and be consistent, and always looking, constant searching through life, understand that you're staying on that track. So that's what I wanted to do when I wrote What's My Purpose, and it came about in a strangest ways, as most book and life do. Give us things. And my life started in rural South Carolina at 5 years old, literally as a kid that was put on the street, on the sidewalk.
Oh, what? Wow. How'd that? Okay, there's a lot of unpacking to do there. What happened?
I was abandoned.
Wow.
That is, that's shocking. I didn't get that from your bio, but
No, it's not. It's one of those things that are early part of life. How do you deal with that, right? How do you tell that story? How do you make that statement I just made? And I just had a birthday and recently, and I'm 72, going on 28, and that's an opportunity where just the past 10 years I got comfortable with even making that statement. And then when I started working on the book in 2007, and then in 2008, we all know the wheels started coming off the wagon at that time.
Sure.
And that's the reason this is so dear to my heart. Everything that I've done, all the consult, everything is built around purpose, defining, living, and through research, there's so many benefits of being able to live a life on purpose, and a lot of them ties into health, mental health, and physical health benefits as well, relationship health, and actually, if you're doing the right things, being able to attract a certain amount of I'm going to use the term money, which I don't like it, to your life as well. So you got to have all those 5 things coming around in order to be able to live that life and live that purpose. And said, I want to be all used up when I leave this physical body, right?
Oh, so, well, let's start with the very basics for somebody who's watching, or maybe somebody who's watching here, like me. But how do you start to find your purpose? Do you make a list? Do you like write your interests down? Like what's the list look like?
What I laid out in the book, What's My Purpose is the book. It's actually a workbook. And I was talking to Jeff, it's not a book you read, it's a book you work. And I started with steps, asking questions, being able to determine what your interest is and really understanding your behavioral psychology as well. Okay. And really understanding those things that bring you joy and you know it when you receive it, if you will. You know it when you get there. We can often say, how many times you talk to people that been in a job for 20 years, or they get up every morning and get in the car, and this is the worst day of their life because they got to go do something that they do not enjoy. And we've all been there. I was there in the early career. I was fortunate. I was with a company called Ingersoll Rand Company in early life, and at 29 years old, I was running a worldwide division, and woke up one Monday morning in my office, and I looked around. I said, I am miserable. I don't want to be here. I don't like it. And so it's that thing, that gut. I'm going to use that to get you in your stomach is all in knots. What do? You've got security. You have a partner and a wife at that time that says, man, this is really great. But yet there's something just eating away at you internally. And so I just started writing down, what is it I want to do? What is it I see? And I started doing this reoccurring thing on the 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. What am I doing? What am I seeing? And what am I not seeing? What is it I want to do? And what is it I do not want to do? So I made list after list after list after list, and to be able to do that. So
that's so you say that like that's normal, but I think for most people, they never realize how miserable they are. I have this story that frames my decision making on career choices. I worked at a 7-Eleven when I was in college. And there was a guy who came in every morning at the same time and bought a cup of coffee and a newspaper, and he would never say more than 2 or 3 words. He'd say, how you doing today? And he'd be like, meh. Like that's it every day, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was working third shift, I'm in college. And every single day, 5 days a week, this guy came in, and he was, he was older than me. I mean, I was 18, but I think he might've been like late 50s, early 60s. And one day he came in at 6:45 instead of 6:05. I mean, he was very punctual, and he got a cup of coffee and he came up to the counter, and I said, how you doing today? And he said, I'm all right. It's a pretty good day. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This guy's never said 3 words. And my boss, he would come in at 7 every day, and once in a while he'd come in at 6, and every day every time he was there, we had this game to see who could get this guy to say the most words. And so my boss comes in like 10 minutes later, and I'm like, you're never gonna believe what happened. We didn't even know his name. We just called him like the coffee grump guy, right? And I'm like, coffee grump like came in, and he like said he was having an okay day, and he talked to me for like a minute. And he's like, no, that's not possible. He went and got the tape and played it back, right? Because he didn't believe it. That's how impossible this was. And then the next day, the guy came in about 15, 20 minutes later, and he talked to me for 10 minutes. He was still talking to me when my boss got there at 7. Right. Yeah. And Mike, my boss, he looked at me after he left, and he goes, what the heck is going on? I'm like, I don't know. I got to get to the bottom of this. It's so weird. And the third day this happened, I said, hey, I got to ask you, like, you've been coming in here for the 5 years I've worked here, and you've said like 6 words to me in 5 years. And now you're like talking to me and telling me about traveling in the South Pacific and about how he loved to go island hopping, and all this stuff. I mean, he's talking about yachts and just all kinds of stuff. And he clearly wasn't a super wealthy guy. And But that was what he would do. He used all his vacation to go to the South Pacific, apparently. But we never knew any of this about him. And I said, so what changed this week? And he was like, I retired. That's literally it. He spent his whole life in a job that made him so miserable that he got up every single day grumpy and in a bad mood. Yeah. And he lived for his 2 weeks off a year to go to the South Pacific.
Yeah.
And that's just so sad to me. And every time I'm tempted to take a job, that's what I think about. Because I know I'm really bad at having a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I could have a job, it'd be at 7-Eleven, because that's the last job I loved. You know, it really is. I go work at 7-Eleven again because that was fun.
Well, so let's say you're making this list and you said the things I want, I want, the things I see, the things I don't see. How do you know what the things are that you don't see?
I don't see, if you want to be honest, and there's an exercise that I developed many years ago, and go to a mirror and just focus on looking yourself in the eye, what I call looking into the soul, and see how long you can maintain that stance. And you will have this, it's another form of meditation to a degree. And what I don't see is joy. Am I really making a difference, or am I just talking about the difference? So those are the things that I would say. And the things that I see opportunities when I walk down. I love New York City in the day when we can actually walk down Fifth Avenue, and I look around. I love standing in the middle of these crowds. And I could look around, and I could see every nationality in the world, that we were shoulder to shoulder walking around and coexisting. And I'd have this little exercise. I'd just stop and introduce myself to people. How you doing today? What is your purpose? And they'd look at me. Well, first, I was lucky I probably wasn't arrested, because somebody was, talking to them, right? But it's amazing how you can just strike up a conversation with a total stranger, and to be able to say, what I don't see is a lot of, in those days, is a lot of people going out of the way to extend their hand of help, or to extend a kind word, or to extend someone in need. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I did 2 tours in Vietnam, and the veteran community is very close to my heart. And in Monterey, where I live as well, very similar story to you, Jeff. When I had this guy, he's sitting on the corner, I'd buy him a cup of coffee every morning, right? I'd go out, and he's sitting on the sidewalk, I'd buy him a cup of coffee, and we just start talking about life and about purpose, and then one day he followed me to my office, came into my office, and he says, that book that you're talking about, can I have that book? And I said, yeah, you can have that book. And he took the book, and then the book, I've got it here, where I said, your most meaningful experiences. So he took the book, he worked the book, he brought it back a couple of weeks later. He had completed all of this book, and come to find out that he had had some traumatic brain injury. And so what we did, as a result of that, I reached out to the local mental health facility, and they got him in and got him some treatment, and he started to recover. So he was actually homeless, veteran, and people walking by him. That's the extent. I could probably say this shorter than what I did, but the point is, we walk by people sometimes and we don't know their pain. So we got to make sure that we are open, and that's part of the purpose. And that's what your show, Live Your Best Life. Well, he was trying to live his best life, but people were ignored. They didn't see him. And so that's where I came up with that. What do you see? What do you not see?
That's great. That reminds me a lot about one of our former guests was saying, Frank McKinney, who's a He's an author that's on one of his book tours. He took his hotel that he was going to get each night, and he would trade places with a homeless person. Wherever they lived is where he lived, and he let them stay in the nice fancy hotel. And he said it completely changed his life because he got to understand that these people are people. And that's the thing, right? And that's something that we talk about a lot, is it's really easy to look at someone who disagrees with you or maybe has a different value set than you and disparage them. And you really can't, you have to try to understand that we have way more in common with everyone than we have different than them.
We do. We do. But again, what you guys are doing is drawing attention and all your audience. And a lot of people said, is it possible, Jim? I don't buy it. How do you sit down and start writing lists, and how you start listening? Well, I would love to be a recording artist. I'd like to be an astronaut. And I get all those crazy questions. I say crazy because they were said in such a way that things are not possible. You've got to have reality as well as what you can and cannot do with your life. What is your aptitude? What resources do you have? And that's when I wrote the book, and I turned the book into a 12-week course that I taught in a seminar series as well, and it actually turned in to be a family group and adolescents as well, so they would work and be able to work through issues as well with groups by doing these exercises like that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited to dig into your book. Actually, I told you I looked at it a little bit. And Jillian, I don't know if you knew this or not, but his book starts out with a contract. You have to sign a contract saying you're going to take it seriously in order to work through the book. It's
I love that.
And then his part of the contract is he's gonna help us through it. If we take it serious, he's gonna take it serious.
Oh, and, I'm doing this. I'm buying the book.
No, for sure. I'm getting the book, and we're gonna go through this together. You and I are, Jillian. We're gonna be our own accountability partners.
No, I love it. That's so exciting. And I mean, I love the idea that it's a workbook, and you're making people work on this. I'm buying it right now. I'm on the site. You can get it right on Amazon, everyone. And you have it on Kindle and paperback. But to me, it doesn't really make much sense to buy it on Kindle because if it's a workbook, you want to work through it,
he threatened to cancel the interview when I told him I was looking at it on Kindle. He's like, you gotta have it on paper.
Kindle, number one. What's it doing on Kindle?
Well, there is a Kindle version. I will tell you that.
Thank you, Jeff. I will have a conversation as soon as our interview is up. How did that get on Kindle? That doesn't do any good on Kindle. You got to write on it.
Yeah. Okay. So and then the great thing that you said something about, like, write down your most meaningful experiences, almost to like figure this out, like what made you happy. Well, I'm happiest when I'm sitting on a beach doing nothing. So is there a job tiki bar owner?
I think we could have a whole chain of Last Life tiki bars. I'm all about that. That sounds like a good time.
And those are fine. And you make sure you write every one of those down. And that's what I tell people. Don't stop. Write them down. Then you're going to have a collection. Then you're going to start coming back and you start setting priorities. Well, okay, that's just great. I got a tiki bar, but in order to be able to keep that tiki, I got to figure out some way to support this particular purpose that I have, right? And I love being on the beach all the time, but after a period of time, that's probably become a little bored. So
that's why we're going to start a dive shop so we can go diving as well while we're on the beach.
Yeah, all of those things is fine, but at the same time, those may help you lead to your purpose, right? And take diving. Oh, that's a task. That's meaningful, but does it have a purpose? Well, maybe you took up diving, and your purpose then it became underwater research or whatever.
Clean the reef or get rid of the lionfish.
And you do all of those things.
Yeah.
So it all starts, and that's when you got to listen. You got to listen to your body, and you got to be open to asking and answering those questions.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we go through the book, we write out our best experiences, and we try to make a list of the things that we see and don't see. What's the next step after that? Like, what do people need to do next?
Next step, you continue, the steps are to go through what your skills are. This is on what are my skills? What am I good at? And what I would like to get at. Mine was when I did it, I wanted to learn how to play the keyboards.
Yeah.
Learn to play the keyboards, right? I've always had this imagination. So I started, well, when I was going through that process, it was the most painful thing I ever did in my life, right? Was to learn how to play the keyboard. But as I started listening to the lyrics and I started, coming out of me, not believing I could ever make that sound when it wasn't so painful to listen, but practicing and knowing and that sense of accomplishment. So it's one of those little bites at a time, sense of accomplishment. And well, you check that one off. You go do the next one. And life is a journey. And then also have some stepping stones in the book. And it's a stepping stone. So you start, and I asked you to start from birth as much as you can go back. Start from birth. What happened? What happened next? Have all your stepping stones? Where did life take you? What did you do? What occurred as a result of that? What decision did you make from that? So that's a process that we lay out in the book as well.
So I think I understand what you're saying there. So I'm gonna take an example from my own life. Like I told you some of this off the air, but I was a real estate attorney, or I was an attorney, and then I got sick, and then I decided I wanted to get into real estate. I took a job, honestly, and I didn't love working for someone else, but I needed money, right? But then I learned from what I was doing. The work I did at the job involved a lot of finance and things like that, and then I was able to apply that to my investing. But then once I got to the point where my investments could support my lifestyle, I suddenly went, okay, now I'm going to go to the beach. I was like, Jillian, I want to live on the beach. I'm just going to go hang out on a beach. And I was at the beach for like 3 days. And then I was like, wow, I got to find something else to do with my life. So I started thinking, okay, well, I'm going to help other people invest in real estate because it's been really good for me. And so I started doing that. And then after a little while longer, right, the next stepping stone was, not everyone actually wants to be in real estate. So I need to help people figure out their purpose. And that brought us to right here, and that's where I am. So you're saying I'm not done yet? I got to keep doing this process?
You're not through. You're just beginning. You're just beginning. And you know why? Because the passion and the love that you have for people, and for the very fact that you guys are doing this show, you care for people. So you're just beginning. This show, you have no idea. You have a large following, but the beauty about what you're doing, you're reaching. You're just beginning this journey. It can get deeper and deeper and deeper. That's the point. It get deeper and deeper and deeper. A friend of mine, Jack Kenfield, everybody, chicken food for the soul. Jack created an organization called Transformational Leadership Council a few years ago, which I was a member of. And John Gray, the author from Venus and Mine. So we were talking, and the reason I'm bringing it up, because we get together as the authors and the self-help, and we're looking at each other and supporting each other. And John said to me one day, he said, you're not through. And I was 60, right? I remember I was he said, you're not through. You're thinking, I was complaining, oh my God, I'm tired of flying airplanes. I'm tired of doing this speaking engagement. I'm tired of doing all of this. I don't want to do it anymore. And he said, just be quiet, stop complaining, and just continue to do it. So I did. And at one speaking engagement I did actually in Los Angeles at the Westin at the LA airport. That was a convenient place. And the person at the end of my presentation in the back of the room came up and says, I attended your seminar online several years ago, and at that time I was contemplating suicide. My life was over as I knew it, and there was just one word that I heard you say, and that is love yourself, love your disease, and that sort of thing. And so that's the reason you're just beginning, because it's going to be what you guys are going to say something, or your guests are going to say something that's going to impact somebody's lives in such a positive fashion.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to think about it, because that is really, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we do the show. Jillian and I want to impact people in a positive manner, and I started too, like I skipped a step in my little stepping stones because I didn't think it was relevant, but now I realize it was. When I started speaking from the stage, I started getting feedback like that. And we get emails and direct messages from people that say, oh, your Facebook group is really helpful to me. And some of these people I didn't even know were in the group, right? Like they're people I know from other areas that I didn't even realize they were like paying attention to our group. And they reach out, and they might not participate, but they're paying attention. And I hope that, if we help one person, it's enough, right? But I hope we help a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think you can take comfort in the fact that you do. It's like, for the mere fact that you're just showing up, right? And to be able to talk about it. And I don't want to get political, and I know we're short on time, but this country needs a serious discussion about loving their neighbor.
No doubt about that. Something we actually did a video on that recently, right after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because we were seeing people celebrating her death, and that's terrible, regardless of what you think about her decision making, right? And then we saw other people that were like, hateful the other direction with, I forget, there was someone else that died right around that time or got sick or something. But the point is, we were like, listen, people are people. Like, don't celebrate suffering. Let's move forward. Let's have a discussion about how you can love everyone. And that's super important. And you wrote about this in your newest book, right? Broken America, which just came out a few weeks ago. And it's, if I remember correctly, I think it's 10 steps or 10 principles to heal America.
Correct.
Yeah. What can you tell us about that in the last couple of minutes that we have?
Well, I got a little upset over our political party in both sides and all sides of the political party. And I said, well, what have I got to say about it? And I laid out 10 principles, and I started with the Constitution. I just reminded people of the Constitution and how the country was founded, and said the founding mothers and the founding fathers, and this do not take this country for granted. We are a young country, and all sides of every politician, we need to take a breath and start talking to each other and stop all this aggressive name calling and all of that stuff. So I just go through the book and I just call things the way they are, in my opinion. I always say that's Jim's opinion. You don't have to agree with it. But I also say in my groundwork, when you write your book, you can have your own opinion as well. So, and
believe me, there's a lot of opinion in my book. I'm just going to be honest. It's not out yet, but it's in a working process, and it's full of opinion. But that's right. I mean, discussion is the key, and so it doesn't really matter if we agree with your opinion or not. If we can have a civil conversation about it, it makes both of us better.
It does. And civility, and one of the principles, truth seeking, vision, courage, compromise, diversity, all of those things I think are extremely important, not only in the country, it's also important in our family life and our relationship life. And I'm blessed to have two of the greatest young men. I think my two boys are my best friends. We talk, we exchange. I learned so much from them. And when they saw that book, it said, "Dad, we're very proud that you had the courage to write that book, because we know you're going to get a lot of feedback. So we know that this is going to be something that our grandkids are going to be able to say, at least you didn't sit on the sidelines. You got involved in the game."
Well, and Go ahead, Jillian.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I'm very interested in what kind of feedback have you gotten on the book? Have you gotten any feedback on the book?
I have.
Okay. So
I have. A lot of the majority of the feedback's been very positive. We've been very blessed with the book. I've got a lot of op-eds that we've got a lot of press on the book. The majority of it has been very, very positive. And some of the negative feedback is thought it was anti-Republican Party, right? And it's farthest from the truth. It is not any political party. It's just like, here's the 10 things that we think that we all should be doing and take serious. But the majority of it's been very, very, very positive on the feedback of the book. And actually, I was fortunate enough, Leon Panetta endorsed the book for me.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a pretty good endorsement. Apparently, I need to up my game because so far the only person endorsing my book is Jillian Sidoti. And so
hey, that's a pretty good
I'm sending it to
endorsement.
you, Dr. Jim. I'm up in my game.
Well, this was awesome. I hope I want to have you on again because you also wrote a book on leadership and influence. I want to talk about that, but first I want everybody to go out there and find your purpose. So buy the book. What's your purpose? What's my purpose? A journey of personal and professional growth. Buy it on paperback. Do not buy it on Kindle because it is a workbook. It's on Amazon by Dr. Jim White. And then also buy Broken in America. And then you're going to buy his other book on leadership and influence. And after you figure out your purpose.
Right. And then you're going to buy his other book and just keep buying them. I mean,
like the books are so diverse, and it actually makes me feel really good because the book I wrote was on crowdfunding and how to do crowdfunding, but I feel like I have other books in me, and I've always been. But people think that I'm supposed to write the crowdfunding books, and now I know I don't have to because you've shown me I don't have to.
You don't have to.
I struggle with that too. It's funny, Jillian, that you say that because the first book I wrote is about hiring a bankruptcy attorney, like how to hire a bankruptcy attorney, and I'm like, I've kind of pigeonholed myself into a terrible topic because where do you go from that? Right?
Yeah, I guess you can write whatever you want. That's what Dr. Jim taught us.
That's exactly right.
You can, and like I said, my books are so diverse, and I get a lot of feedback. Geez, you go from this to this, from what's my purpose to political.
And opportunity zones too. That's another topic that's really fascinating. But listen, we have to wrap up. So one last thing. Do you have any last words of wisdom to impart upon our audience?
I do. Take some quiet time for yourself and just ask the question, am I living my life on purpose? And just ask that over and over and over, and be open to what you hear. And you're going to hear it through your senses. Be open to your senses, and it's going to tell you, and then have the courage to actually take action.
So I love what you just said. You said, I don't know if you caught this, Jillian. He said, ask the question, am I living my life on purpose?
Right.
That's really great, actually. That's it. So, Jillian, I'm going to try to live my life on purpose. I hope you do too.
Oh, I'm working on it every day there, Jeffrey.
All right. Dr. Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been really, really great. And Jillian, do you have anything you want to share with the audience?
Yes, please stick around after this short break, and Jeff and I will wrap up the show.
Go!
So that was amazing.
That was awesome. I mean, he has so much experience, and I was reading his bio, and it was almost like I can't even read through all his bio because there's just so much here.
I know. I couldn't believe it. Like I screenshotted it because I was like, this is too much. I can't read it at all. Right. I mean, we didn't even get into this, but he sold his last company that he had $1.8 billion in annual sales the year he sold it.
Well, here's the other thing too. And for those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking about our most recent guest, Dr. Jim White. And he he has a BS in civil engineering, an MBA, and then a doctorate in psychology and organizational behavior. I mean, the man has done so much, and he's like complimenting us on this little podcast of ours.
Yeah, and he knows how famous we are too, because I talked to him ahead of time, and he was like, "So tell me about your show." And I'm like, "We have like 4 viewers."
It doesn't matter if you touch all 4 viewers.
Like 13 downloads.
Okay, it's better than that.
It's a little bit better than that, yeah. But yeah, and then he just casually drops like my friend Jack Canfield. Like we were talking, like John and I were having a conversation. That's literally, he called him John too. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you know someone when you have a when you call them by a name that's not their professional name.
No, I know. So fantastic. So how's your week going?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I went to a leadership summit for the weekend. So that was a lot of fun. I got to meet, it was a small group, COVID style, 15 people in a weekend in Bentonville, Arkansas, the home of Walmart. And we discussed leadership and growth and, how to deal with our businesses and our real estate investments and things like that. And it was a good time.
Wow. How many of there were you?
15 plus the organizer, so 16 people, I think, or maybe 17. I didn't really count. There's supposed to be 15, but I feel like there might have been one extra person there, because I swear the reservation I had to make for the restaurant was 16 and not 15. So.
Oh, you made a reservation for a restaurant?
Well, I tried, but like we didn't get to go, because like they limit the group size, so we had to divide up actually. So.
Oh, so you guys socially distanced the entire time, did you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The air mattresses were at least 5 feet apart on the floor of the Airbnb.
Oh my God, so bad.
Yeah, well, hopefully we didn't get COVID. But I will say this, if one of us has it, we probably all do.
Well, here's the thing. You're like a cat with 9 lives, and I think you're on like life number 7. So you just got to be careful from here on out.
Yeah, well, I do plan on sticking around for at least a couple more days. So you seem like you're having a fun time this last little bit, the last couple of minutes.
Well,
so how's your week going?
As you know, my week has not been going as well as would be liked.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. This is the first time I felt compelled to send you flowers to cheer
I know.
you
Well,
up.
I was going to get into them. So I have these lovely flowers behind me that Mr. Jeff sent me. I have like 6 different names.
Jeff?
Mr.
Are
Jeff.
we talking to your kids now?
I know, that's what I have. That's what I have my kids called Jeff is Mr. Jeff. Well, at least Nikki. Everybody else is.
So
Mr.
what kind
Holt.
of flowers did I send you? I didn't really pay that much attention.
Daisies and carnations, and heavy on the carnations. And I love the card. I'm going to read it to all of you. I got you cheap and gross flowers for your cheap and gross week. Lots of love, Jeff and Becky, from Jeff. I love it. It just it brought this. Derek and I laughed so hard. I needed them. I had the last week and a half has not been kind to me, and it just brightened up my day. And things are looking up, so I can't complain.
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad you enjoyed them. It was worth all, like, they you know what? It turns out, well, carnations are really cheap if you buy them at 7-Eleven. If you buy them online and have them delivered next day, they're not as cheap. So they actually weren't. And I kind of felt bad writing the card, because I'm like, it was like a local artisan put together a bouquet. You can't buy just carnations. That's why there's other stuff in it, right? You can't get just a bouquet of carnations delivered because they're cheap and gross. And for people that don't know, it's this conversation, like, because it's a little, if they're not really paying attention, they might not know. One time I was telling a story about how I bought my wife tulips and found out she doesn't like tulips and that they're her least favorite flower. And Jillian said to me, she said, "Oh, I don't have a least favorite flower. Who has a least favorite flower?" And then she stopped in the middle of the sentence and said, "Well, except for carnations, because they're cheap and gross." And I said, "Oh, like you?" I don't know why I said it, but it's just kind of a thing for Jillian and I now. So forever, once a year on your birthday, January 2nd, I'm going to give you carnations.
That is so kind. So no, they made, but the card, I laughed and Derek laughed and we had a good laugh at it. But so thank you very much. I do not have a joke for today. It's
okay. I don't either. I'm really unprepared. I really was. I wasn't. I mean, in fairness, because last week we didn't even do the outro, which if you're watching in the group right now, we're about to record last week's outro as well. So you can stick around for that. And maybe what we do, Jillian, is just record it right on this same live. We'll just do the break and then move forward.
Hey, that sounds great. So everybody, well, I don't know why you would say that in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, no, it's not the middle of a podcast because no one actually watches the stuff after the podcast. But if you guys are watching, we really enjoy your support. And I want to tell you, and this is really important because we didn't say it at the end of the interview, and that is, Jillian,
go out there and live the best version of your last life ever.
Never gonna take my freedom. You're never gonna take my
So, Jillian, that was a great interview.
Yeah, so we interviewed Jeff Holst,
Wait, we interviewed me?
the other Jeff
Oh,
Holst
yeah.
that we
Yeah,
interviewed.
so
Lovely man.
Oh, no,
Lovely man.
really, really enjoyed it. And you want to know something? I will tell you. He actually emailed me today, and now we're recording this like a week later, right? We interviewed him last week. He emailed me today, and he said, "Thank you so much for having me on the show. It meant a lot. I don't know if I'll get invited on another show anytime soon. I've been scared to watch the show." Because I don't know if I did well or not. And I was like, no, you did great. I promise. There's no problem.
No.
So Jeff, if you're watching this video, no, from one Jeff Holst to another, you did just fine.
You did great, and the charity was Colin's Hope. If you guys want to donate to that, or you need some water safety in your life, or you want to attend an event. I don't think there's a lot of events going on right now, but you can go to colinshope.org and find out more about water safety and water safety tips. And that one of the great things about that interview for me was how Jeff talked about how he just leaned in to his sadness in a lot of ways.
Unbelievable.
He was just like, he immediately took action to prevent this happening to other children. He made that his purpose. And he was just like, forget my sadness. I'm going to, I don't want to say fix, because I don't think you ever fix. There's nothing to fix. That is there. That's a broken piece of you when you lose a child. But he just was able to say, I'm going to make sure that no one else, or as few people as possible, go through this sadness that I go through.
And he talked about how he was certain it happened for a reason, which, I mean, you have to have some serious healing to be able to have that kind of statement about the death of your child.
Right.
Yes, it's been 10 years or 12 years, but I mean, and you could tell because he broke up when he was talking about Colin that, that pain is still real and still there. But he also was like, I had a chance to say goodbye. He gave us that story about how one night, right? Just one night, he took the time to let his child stay in bed with him, and it happened to be the last day of his life.
Wow.
I mean, I was like, I was crying. I mean, I tried to cover it up, and I'm going to admit it now, so I guess I didn't need to cover it up. But I mean, I was literally crying when he was talking about that. I mean, and I don't even have children. I can't even imagine. Like you're going through that. We're doing that interview, and your son had just broken his leg like 2 or 3 days before, and you just gotten him home from the hospital, and I don't know how you made it through the interview, actually, thinking about that, because really Nikki is not that much different in age than Colin.
No, one of the biggest regrets I have is I was really adamant with my oldest child, specifically, of not having him sleep in bed with us. Like I wanted to have an independent child and just wanted him to be, sleeping in his own bed, because, most of the child psychologists said that that's what you're supposed to do. You don't let them become overly dependent on you, or a mama's boy or whatever. And so my first child, never even tried to come into the bed. My second child immediately went to sleep with his brother in his bed. So the two of them were together. And then the third child, I've let sleep in my bed, and he's the one he's 5, but he's the one I'm the closest to. I have the best, he's only 5, but I have the best relationship with him. And I attribute that a lot to allowing him to sleep in my bed so much. He's just my little man. And so I'm glad, for one thing I can say about that interview is I'm so glad he did that, because I can't even imagine the compounding of pain had he not.
Yeah, and just to be able to look back at that and say that he was there for his kid that night when he needed him, and know that it was like, he even said it was like a chance to say goodbye. And I mean, in retrospect, that's like, to even be able to think that, it shows an incredible level of, like I said, emotional healing, but I mean, also, like, it's so powerful.
Right.
And it did remind me, and we brought that up in the interview too, it reminded me of how Mike Pearson talked about losing his son, and how he adapted to it. And it's just, the idea that if something really traumatic or terrible happens to you, something really good can come out of it. Is just super powerful, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So I was happy to be able to share that story, even if it was weird having someone with my name on the show. Because it was. Imagine if we interviewed Jillian Sidoti. In fact, I'm going to find a Jillian Sidoti. So if any of our audience knows someone named Jillian Sidoti that's interesting and doing something cool, I want to interview that person.
All right. That's enough of that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeff, what do you want everybody to do?
I want everyone to remember how important it is to live the very best version of your last life ever.